I welcome you all to this important episode of Conversations at Foothills by ISRA. There have been attempts to distort that narrative from across the border from time to time. How do you look at that and how successful or unsuccessful those attempts have been?
That despite India's draconian measures, all the legal steps that they have taken, and the excessive force that they have used over the decades, they have not been able to win hearts and minds of the people of Jammu and Kashmir.
The kind of oppression that we are looking at as far as Kashmir is concerned, what's happening to the children and the women, and we know what happened with pellet guns also. So many people lost their eyes, and it continues to happen even as we speak.
It is our determination that we will continue our struggle. The people of Jammu and Kashmir have struggled for their freedom for 200 years, and they would continue their struggle. There's no looking back. And we've given our blood, and Pakistan also has given its blood and treasure for the freedom and right to self-determination of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. We will keep the issue alive in the international forum.
I welcome you all to this important episode of Conversations at Foothills by ISRA. I have a very important guest with us today, Sardar Masud Khan, who is, of course, a senior Pakistani diplomat and politician, but also former president of Azad Kashmir. And of course, he's known for his contribution and role in international diplomacy and multilateral negotiation. We're going to be talking to him today on Kashmir. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sardar Sahab, on this very, very important topic.
Thank you for having me.
Sardar Sahab, before we go on, first of all, you're a Kashmiri yourself. You have a long association with Kashmir. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that and your association with Kashmir?
Well, I was born in Kashmir. My hometown is Rawalakot. I was born and raised there. So I have this irreversible linkage with Kashmir. And the second thing is that when I joined the Foreign Service of Pakistan in different diplomatic assignments, whether they were in New York or Geneva or in other parts of the world, I raised the issue of Jammu and Kashmir. Right. And the entire journey culminated with my presidency of Azad Jammu and Kashmir from 2016 to 2021. So, and I have always considered the advocacy for Kashmir as a responsibility, as a historic responsibility for me and for the people of Jammu and Kashmir who've been striving for the realization of their right to self-determination for now 7 decades, more than 7 decades.
Before we go on, in terms of our stance on Kashmir, our narrative on Kashmir, we've maintained a consistent narrative over time. First of all, do you agree with that? Of course, there have been attempts to distort that narrative from across the border from time to time. How do you look at that and how successful or unsuccessful those attempts have been?
Well, we'll have to go back to 1947. In fact, the people of Jammu and Kashmir have been fighting oppression and despotism for the past 1.5 centuries. I mean, it's this struggle for the Kashmiris was not new, right. Whether they were in the valley of Kashmir or Jammu or the present-day Azad Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan. And in the last phase, of course, they were opposing the tyrannical rule of the Maharaja of Kashmir. Right. In 1947, to be very precise, in June 1947, the India Independence Act was passed, and the partition of India was to be organized on the basis of that act. There were about 562 princely states, and they were given an option in accordance with that act that they could accede either to India or to Pakistan. And the formula was very simple. One was geographical contiguity of the territory of a princely state. Yeah. And the second was communal or demographic composition. In the state of Jammu and Kashmir, there were Muslims. The Muslims were in majority. In fact, I think nearly 80% of the population was Muslim. And this was their natural aspiration to be part of Pakistan. Right. The Maharaja tried to oppose it, and of course the Indian leaders, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru or Mahatma Gandhi or Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, and even Mountbatten, the Viceroy of India at that time, they worked on the Maharaja and persuaded him to accede to India while he was still resisting.
This collusion, of course, is there. But overall, in terms of, you said that we have a long association with the Kashmiris.
Of course, the rivers of Kashmir flow to Pakistan. People used to come and get educated in Pakistani educational institutions at that time in Lahore and other parts of Rawalpindi. These used to be their destinations. We also share religion, cuisine, kinship, you name it. And we are one people, as a matter of fact. So they were naturally part of Pakistan. But the will of the people of Jammu and Kashmir was sabotaged by the machinations of Indian leaders. And on October the 27th, 1947, they invaded and occupied part of Kashmir. At that time, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru promised a plebiscite. He had no intention of holding the plebiscite. And then his whole idea was to appease and deceive the Muslims of Jammu and Kashmir. And then he took the issue to the Security Council, United Nations Security Council, in 1948. His hope was that, and this was his petition to the United Nations Security Council, that the Azad Kashmir troops and Pakistani troops should vacate Gilgit-Baltistan and Azad Kashmir. This was a very Machiavellian move because he wanted that we would vacate the troops and they would occupy this territory as well, so that they could annex it with India. But the Security Council at that time was even-handed, and they said that the people of Jammu and Kashmir are free to accede to India or Pakistan on the basis of a plebiscite. And the United Nations was to appoint a plebiscite administrator, and all the arrangements had been made. And but India opposed it. Up to this day, Pakistan is ready for that plebiscite. The people of Jammu and Kashmir are ready for that plebiscite. United Nations is ready to make those arrangements in accordance with the United Nations Charter and in accordance with the 12 resolutions that were passed from 1948 to 1957. India is blocking it. India has been opposing the exercise of the will of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. But India has not been able to win hearts and minds of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, even after 77 years. India is a colonizer, and its occupation of the territory is illegal.
And of course, the kind of tyranny and oppression currently exerted at the hands of India doesn't help them win the hearts and minds of the people.
Yes, absolutely. You'll have to go back to the months of October and November 1947. At that time, the population of Jammu, out of the entire population of Jammu, Muslims were 61%. The Maharaja and the Maharani at that time, they organized a massacre, a genocide of Muslims, which reduced the population from 61% to 30%. According to the international reports, 238 Muslims are massacred in 2 months. I always say that that was the first genocide or the first Holocaust after the Second World War. And since then, I think 500,000 Kashmiris have been killed. Women have been raped and gang raped, as a matter of fact. I mean, thousands of women have been gang raped. I mean, people are incarcerated. And the Indian writ is there illegal. And that's why the people of Jammu and Kashmir have never voluntarily decided to become part of India. So we've been, over the decades, we've been raising the issues of human rights violations, gross and consistent and systematic human rights violations in the Jammu and Kashmir territory.
So in the wake of that background, we also see India's attempt to distort the narrative around Kashmir. They've tried to do so internationally. They've tried to do so at every forum, which Pakistan has, of course, deflected. We've defended it also. In terms of the kind of story they try to tell the world. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, the first story was in the 1950s when they constituted a constituent assembly within Jammu and Kashmir. And they said that the constituent assembly had decided that the entire state would become part of Indian Federation. Of course, there was the instrument of accession, which was a fake document because its veracity and validity has never been proved, which was allegedly signed by the Maharaja of Kashmir in 1947, October 1947. But in addition to that, this Constituent Assembly rubber stamped a proposal from Indian Federation to make Jammu and Kashmir, or at least the occupied territory of Jammu and Kashmir, with India. But for this, India was censured twice when the Constituent Assembly was formed, and then in 1957, in a resolution, the resolution was 122. They said that this Constituent Assembly has no right to decide the future of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, that it was the rightful prerogative of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. The second is that after 1989, when there was an armed struggle in Jammu and Kashmir, and this was indigenous, they said that Pakistan is sponsoring terrorism. But at that time, there was this legal debate that when people are being oppressed and they resist oppression, isn't this the right of the people of an occupied territory to do so legally?
Yeah.
And so they call them terrorists. And from 1990 to 95, Kashmiris fought a fierce battle to get freedom. They did not succeed. And now they associate, while we talk about the right to self-determination in human rights, everything is anchored in international law, they try to invoke the specter of terrorism so that the world is misled, and they want to arouse their concerns about insurgency and terrorism happening in the occupied territory, because there are other federations, large federations. They do not want their federating units to secede. But this was not the lawful accession to India. India is in illegal occupation of the territory.
What about the narrative of bilateral dispute that is distorted by India? How do you look at that?
Well, it goes back to 1972. We signed the Simla Agreement, but the first article of Simla Agreement invokes the United Nations Charter. So, and this Article 2 of the Simla Agreement says that we can have bilateral talks. Pakistan is open to bilateral talks, but or by other means, if there's an agreement between the two parties. So the United Nations was never excluded. And Article 6 talks about the final settlement of Jammu and Kashmir. So they want to bilateralize the issue of Jammu and Kashmir because they want to have a veto. When you have bilateral negotiations, the other party has to agree to talks.
Yes.
And India never responds to our overtures or our invitations for talks on Kashmir. It sabotages them. It takes two to tango. How can a bilateral format succeed if there is an absence of good faith between the two parties? But let me also highlight that this is a fabricated premise for the issue of Jammu and Kashmir. I'll tell you that in accordance with the United Nations Charter, Article 33 of Chapter 6, as a matter of fact, it says that you can use all sorts of things to resolve dispute that threatens peace and security between two countries. You can resort to conciliation, mediation, inquiry, regional solutions, judicial adjudication, and so on. But if nothing works under Article 34, the United Nations Security Council has the right, absolute right, to intervene where they see that any dispute any impending crisis would imperil international peace and security. So I think that, and the other thing is that we've had bilateral talks with India.
Yeah.
But after Narendra Modi became the Prime Minister of India, we haven't had any structured dialogue on Kashmir.
Was there ever a time that you feel, in your experience, that we made some headway?
I think that we'll have to go back in history. There were Zulfikar Ali Bhutto Swaran Singh talks in the early 1960s. There was some promise there that those talks were backed by President Kennedy of the United States of America. Behind the scenes, he was supportive. And then I would talk about these composite dialogue rounds, which were held in the 1990s or let's say late 1980s, that started at that time. But the most structured dialogue between the two countries at all levels took place between 2004 and 2008. When we built confidence between the two countries, when we had talks on trade and, of course, Jammu and Kashmir. And we also talked about Siachen and Sir Creek and all these issues.
But that
it was an 8-point agenda. But the talks were at the political level, also at the military level, but also at the level of secretaries. And this was a structured dialogue. And the entire cycle, multi-pronged cycles, as a matter of fact, lasted for about 4 years. So, but
not under Mr. Narendra Modi. There's little chance of someone like him or us making any headway while he is, of course, the leader in across the.
True.
But in terms of the narrative again, whatever's happening in Kashmir is no less than what has happened and is continuing to happen in Palestine. Do you think that the world has resonated enough as much as Palestine in the world, the cause for Kashmir?
Well, if you allow me, I'll first address what happened in 2019, August 5th, 2019. Because India, once again, in violation of international law, in violation of the UN Security Council resolutions, and against the wishes of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, reoccupied the occupied territory, rescinded its own articles, Article 370 of its constitution and Article 35A. And well, Article 35A was passed during Maharaja's regime back in the 1920s, which gave this special right to the Kashmiris to own their land. And this allowed the outsiders to settle there. But Article 370 was a fig leaf for their violations in Jammu and Kashmir and their illegal steps that they had taken over the years. So they rescinded it and they sent additional troops. And now, since then, they said that this final step would merge Jammu and Kashmir in the Indian Federation. But this hasn't happened. As a matter of fact, the Indian presence there is an alien presence.
Right.
India is a colonizer there. And one proof of that colonization is that there are 1 million troops deployed in Kashmir. You send such a large number of troops to a hostile territory, to the enemy territory. They consider Kashmiris to be enemies. And this was demonstrated after the Pahalgam attack last year on April the 22nd. Merely on the basis of suspicion, they incarcerated thousands of people and they destroyed the houses and properties and businesses of the Kashmiris. So I'm raising this to establish that despite India's draconian measures, all the legal steps that they have taken, and the excessive force that they have used over the decades, they have not been able to win hearts and minds of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. And it is an alien territory. I want to repeat that this is an alien territory for India. So the second is that
in terms of how it's been taken up, I mean, in terms of this resonating in the world, the kind of oppression that we are looking at as far as Kashmir is concerned, what the people are going through, you just, told us what's happening to the children and the women. And, we know what happened with pellet guns also. So many people lost their eyes and it continues to happen even as we speak. Why hasn't it resonated so much?
Well, I'd say that from time to time, spasmodically, the international community has been paying attention to whatever has been happening in Kashmir. And Pakistan has been very active, very proactive in international forums, including the General Assembly, the Human Rights Council, the Security Council from time to time, and informing the membership of the United Nations about gross and consistent violations of human rights being committed by India. Rapporteurs have spoken about it. They have issued indictments about India's systemic violations of human rights. But India seeks exceptionalism. It doesn't care about what the international community says. But what I want to say is that after 2019 steps taken by India, there was a groundswell of support for Pakistan and for the people of Jammu and Kashmir, because the international community, the international media, foreign offices of other countries, they immediately grasped the seriousness of the situation. There were two things. Once the brazen attack on the Kashmiris and depriving them of their even cosmetic statehood. And the second was the risk of a war between India and Pakistan, because Pakistan and India are nuclear weapon states, and if they go to war, that war can escalate to the nuclear level, and that can lead to an Armageddon, not just for India and Pakistan or South Asia, but for the entire world. So the world has been paying attention.
Earlier, it hasn't been consistent.
Yes, but it has not been consistent, yes. But earlier you asked a question about linkage between Palestine and Kashmir.
Yes.
There's a linkage because both the questions are about the right to self-determination. Peoples in both territories have been brutalized, they have been oppressed, and with impunity. And but there are some differences. For instance, the population of Jammu and Kashmir is very big. It should be about 20 million. The territory is about 85,000 square miles or 222,000 square kilometers. It's not a small territory. It's not a small population. The other dissimilarity is that as of last year, about 3/4 of the UN membership recognizes the state of Palestine, including some of the Western countries, including some of the closest allies of the United States, like the United Kingdom, France, Germany, and also Spain, Portugal, Canada, Australia, they recognized. And Palestine has an observer status in the United Nations. And between 22 to 24, I was in the United States of America. And during the war in Gaza, or the Israeli genocide in Gaza, so there was these demonstrations, pro-Palestine, pro-Gaza demonstrations in all the cities of the United States of America, in all the universities of the United States of America, in all the railway stations, and so all the squares and streets, and in front of important buildings, state institutions, there were demonstrations.
And that happened in Europe also?
In Europe and worldwide.
Yes, worldwide.
But it didn't make any dent because realpolitik has prevailed. So in case of Kashmir also, realpolitik has prevailed. You know, and when I talk about the people of Jammu and Kashmir and that they should accede to Pakistan, that was a legal right. But there's also a human rights and humanitarian crisis there. We're talking about 500,000 people who have lost their lives, women who have lost their dignity, their forced disappearances. So we would continue to calls for the realization of the right to self-determination of the people of Jammu and Kashmir.
So of course, like you said, there is a huge humanitarian, the kind of tyranny that we see, humanitarian crisis in not a small, by no means a small small tract of land as far as Kashmir itself is concerned. But at the same time, organizations like the UN, organizations that, of course, where consistently, we raise our voice, and I think you would know better than anybody else, the kind of effort that we make. Is it the futility of these organizations that is now being underscored, and the futility of international law overall in the world? Or is it just, what are the factors that, we've not been able to get that kind of help from any of these organizations?
Well, the United Nations has been sidelined when it comes to Palestine or it comes to an issue like Kashmir. Yeah. And Pakistan has always been trying to foreground Kashmir in all international fora, and it continues to do so, and it will continue to do so. We have also been consistent in seeking diplomatic attention and increasing diplomatic bandwidth on Kashmir. And sometimes we did succeed. For instance, in 2019, the issue was raised 3 times in the Security Council. Also, last year, after India attacked Pakistan, this issue was raised again. Of course, the India-Pakistan war, but also the issue of Jammu and Kashmir was raised. And so the Security Council or the United Nations itself, when it comes to sensitive, strategically sensitive and important issues, it has been compartmentalized. If, for instance, the United States has monopoly over any decision that is taken in regard to Palestine or the Middle East or Israel. And if there's a decision to be taken on North Korea, it would be China and the United States. If it is Ukraine, it would be United States and Russian Federation, or probably you would add to that France and United Kingdom. So, but it's a long haul, we know. We have given, the Kashmiris have given many sacrifices, and we will not surrender under any circumstances. We will persevere in our struggle.
When we look at Modi's India today, we see an India that is steeped in extremism. We also see the treatment of not just Muslims, but it is now extended to other minorities across the board, whether we look at Christians, whether we look at other minorities within India. It is the Hindutva doctrine reigning supreme. In that kind of in India, do you see the space for Kashmiris having shrunk further? Because, of course, it's not just Muslims now, it's just across the board minorities. It's the Hindutva doctrine reigning supreme.
Hindutva doctrine is, in fact, a doctrine of violent extremism. It's a bane for India, for South Asia, also for Pakistan, and for the people of Jammu and Kashmir, particularly the people of the occupied Jammu and Kashmir. So, I think that the hatred that they spew every day affects the fate of Muslims in India, 200 million Muslims.
Yeah.
And that Islamophobic mindset extends to Kashmir also. And therefore, the space from the Indian point of view may have shrunk. But at the same time, it also imperils in the long run the integrity of the Indian Federation, the state of India, because it's such a diverse country. It has so many religions, followers of so many religions, so many ethnicities, so many geographical regions which are dissimilar to each other. But if they have to coexist as a federation, as a state, they have to look for complementarity, not the differences. But the doctrine of Hindutva or the superiority of Hindus that is propagated by Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh only weakens India. And of course, it increases tyranny in Kashmir, in the Jammu and Kashmir. And it squeezes the space for dialogue between India and Pakistan.
When you say that, you mentioned that there is, extended bandwidth, diplomatic bandwidth. When we look at the current situation, we seem to be having that kind of extended bandwidth at this time. So what is in the current situation? Do you think we'll be able to make a dent? Do you think that we need to be more aggressive? What are your thoughts in the current situation now?
Well, in the recent past, twice such an opportunity arose. One was in 2019. In fact, President Trump at that time, before India took illegal steps, announced in Washington, D.C., that he was ready to mediate on Kashmir and that he had been requested by India. India, of course, announced that they hadn't made any request of that sort. But that kind of ignited hopes in India and Pakistan, and in Jammu and Kashmir. And a second opportunity arose last year after the May war between India and Pakistan. President Trump brokered a ceasefire between the two countries. Pakistan congratulated President Trump for that effort. India rejected that claim by President Trump. But fortuitously, at that time, President Trump also announced, while he announced the ceasefire, he announced that, or he suggested that India and Pakistan should have negotiations on Kashmir in a third country, an impartial place. So Pakistan was ready to engage India. India did not reciprocate, and the whole momentum petered out. I think that you're right. We have very good relations with the United States. At the same time, we have very good relations with China and Russia. We have enhanced our influence in the Gulf region, particularly with Saudi Arabia. We have traditionally very strong ties with Qatar and Turkey, and they're all good mediators. I mean, China, Turkey, and Qatar, they always mediate and help nations navigate through very difficult disputes. So there's an opportunity, but the world at the moment is preoccupied with other issues. For instance, disproportionately preoccupied with this board of peace for Gaza or Ukraine, or this tariffs war between Europe and the United States over Greenland. So the bandwidth that we had between, let's say, May of last year and December has shrunk a bit. But I think since Pakistan has clout and its heft is also increasing, maybe in 2026, we could put Kashmir back on the international radar and seek some solution, some resolution of the dispute in accordance with the wishes and aspirations of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. So let me conclude with 2 points. One is that it is our determination that we will continue our struggle. The people of Jammu and Kashmir have struggled for their freedom for 200 years, and they would continue that struggle. There's no looking back. And we've given our blood, and Pakistan also has given its blood and treasure for the freedom and right to self-determination of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. We will keep the issue alive in the international forum. And I think that the world would listen. Although the international order is in a state of disarray at the moment, but I think that equilibrium would be restored. And we should then target with precision the right kind of forum to resolve the issue of Jammu, or forums to resolve the Jammu and Kashmir. The second thing that I want to say, that we can't realize this dream of the liberty and freedom for the people of Jammu and Kashmir unless Pakistan is strong, militarily, economically. And after last year's war with India, opportunities for Pakistan have multiplied, east and west, north and south. And so I think that we should and we would become militarily strong. And the purpose is deterrence, security of our nation, our territorial integrity and independence, political independence of Pakistan. But at the same time, we will attract investment from abroad. And Pakistan would not just be a conduit for trade, it would be a destination for investment.
Inshallah. But just to conclude, what is your message for the youth of Pakistan that, every child wakes up with the Kashmiri cause in their heart? What is your message for the youth of today?
My message to the Pakistani youth and to the Kashmiri youth is that the internet and social media platforms are swamped by India's distorted narratives. So don't believe in them because that stuff is designed to mislead our youth. The people of Pakistan, and youth in fact constitutes 64% of the 250 million people of Pakistan and the majority of the Kashmiri people. So don't be misled. The second thing is that develop your own voice, as a matter of fact. And don't dissociate yourself from history because you cannot sever your relations with the past. And this is a new era, but go back and study the origin of the history of Kashmir or the Kashmir struggle in particular, and be spokesmen and advocates for the people of Jammu and Kashmir, the oppressed people of Jammu and Kashmir, who are living in an open prison in the occupied territory.
Thank you so much for being with us, Sardar Sahab. And like you said, we must fight the false narratives. We must fight the narrative war with the truth on Kashmir. Thank you so much for joining us on this very, very important topic.